Is it your own damn fault that you are not financially ready for retirement as a Gen Xer? Maybe so. Maybe so. I am 59. I am in my 60th year. I turned 60 at the end of this year. Sorry, I would take these sunglasses off, but the sun's like right in my face. So anyway, is it my own damn fault? Something that I've thought about a lot. And I've been thinking over the decisions that I've made through the years, the choices that I've made that have led me to the point where I am right now in my life, where I am financially way behind when it comes to retirement savings. And I'm not going to get into the details of how much I have saved or how much I should have saved. I'm not an expert in those things, and everybody's situation is so different. But I will tell you that by my standards and by most standards, I am behind. That's what I will say. And in terms of, okay, so how did I get here? What did I do? Where did I go wrong? Retirement wasn't something that I really thought about much when I was really young. I knew that I was supposed to get a job at a company and stay with that company for a really long time, and supposed to get a pension or 401k or whatever, and that would prepare me for my retirement. I think when I was really young, like college, young adult, in my 20s, I thought it would just, take care of itself. I would have a comfortable life. I assumed I would have a partner. I assumed it'd be something we'd be doing together. And I assumed, even if it wasn't like conscious, there was a part of me that thought we'll start arranging that when we start our lives together, if that makes any sense. So I don't know that was a conscious thought, but I think it was somewhere back in the back of my mind, back when I was in my 20s. So when I went to college, I was not particularly seeking out like a major or career path that was necessarily going to provide the most highest income. I was just looking for something that I was interested in. I started out college thinking I was going to go into broadcasting. I ended up switching majors and ultimately ended up studying theater and acting and becoming a professionally trained actress that I was extremely passionate about. So for my 20s, that was spent pursuing that dream. At least the first few years of my 20s, I pursued that dream. I went to New York, practically broke, did the whole struggling actress thing. I actually moved to New York twice, broke. I moved to New York and then I left and then I came back again. But both times I was broke when I did it. And even though I had a college degree, I just took whatever jobs that I could get, which were not high-paying jobs. And I worked multiple jobs. I generally didn't have a problem getting jobs and getting hired. I was ambitious and young and smart and caught on fast. And when I did get a job, they would want to promote me. And if it wasn't in line with what my focus was at that time, I wasn't tempted by that. So that was most of my 20s. And as I wrapped up 3/4 of my, so in my late 20s was when I sort of settled into one job. At that point, I had pretty much given up on my acting career, and I was in the health and wellness business. I was in sales, and I was doing really good. I was really good at it, making okay money, not big money. I was not saving up for my far, far, far future. I was pretty much living paycheck to paycheck. Very little to no savings during that time. It wasn't until my late 20s, after a big traumatic event in my life, I was going through a trauma, and I ended up putting all of my effort and all of my focus into my job to a fault, and ended up really overachieving in this job and got the attention on a national level from this company. And I ended up starting to climb the ladder at that point. So I was making decent money at the time for a single person in my early 30s. Then changed companies in my mid 30s and climbed the ladder again, became a VP around in my mid 30s, and that was when I started making six figures, which was really good at that time, really good for someone my age at that time. And I had like a 401k through the company, and that was really it. That was all I was doing in terms of preparing for far, far in the future. I never really thought about or took any action on investing other than that. It wasn't something that interested me, and no one really taught me. It wasn't like an expectation. It wasn't something that I thought about. Like nowadays I see young people, talking about it and getting involved in investments and investing really, really young, and young people talking about entrepreneurship as a better pathway. And I wasn't having those conversations at that time. And I don't know what other Gen Xers think on that. Like, were you having those conversations, or were you in that sort of that traditional path of get a job, stick with the job, stay with the job as long as possible, and that's how you will be prepared and start to get ready for your elder years. Anyway, wasn't even part of my thought process. I do have some peers. Well, I can think of two friends who have always been really, really good at saving, and have always really, really sacrificed a lot of what they were doing in the present in order to prepare for the future, the far in advance future, and even the near-term future. So I only have a couple of friends that did that. I was focused on being able to support myself currently, and I didn't live a super big lifestyle, but I very much valued experiences and adventures and travel and moving. I moved a lot from one city to another, and that definitely had an impact. So by the time I got to my late 30s, that's when I was really earning pretty strong income. And and then that's also when I left my corporate job, and for the first time in my entire life decided to pursue an entrepreneurial path and create my own business. I did that for about 7 years. And that was 7 years during some prime times, late 30s into early to mid 40s. And I did not save during that time. Everything that I saved, I was reasonably successful with generating revenue. I've always been pretty decent at earning income, but I would put the money back in the business or put the money into experiences. I very rarely put the money into I didn't put it into investments, and I very rarely put it into savings, and had just a little bit of debt, and my goal was to get the debt gone first before I start played with the what do I do first, pay off the debt, whatever, yada yada. The last couple of years of that entrepreneurial journey was a struggle for me. I was not enjoying it anymore. I think I was on the verge of making something really wonderful happen, and I feel like I gave up too soon, but I was living off of savings and credit cards for the better part of a year, maybe 2 years, until I got another job with corporate again. And there was a lot of different factors that went into it, but I also find it interesting that was right around when perimenopause was really, really rough for me, and when I was going through a really traumatic, I went through a couple of back-to-back traumatic relationships at that same time. So again, preparing for the future, I've always felt that it was right around the corner. I've always felt that a big payoff and something really wonderful and special was right around the corner. I'm not sure why I thought that, but I always felt that way. And there were periods of time when I would get more conservative and really start, like I got rid of all my debt, started saving, and then something would happen that would throw me off course. And often it would be something externally that came along and just sort of ruined my plans, if that makes sense. So in my mid 40s through my early 50s, I continued to do well with income. You know, I was back into a corporate environment. My income kept growing. I was saving to buy a house in California. And then it was 2021 and I tried to buy a house, and I was put, you know, even though I was approved for a really nice amount, I had a decent amount saved up, and the market, just could not break in. I put in 5 different offers on 5 different places, and each of them fell through, which was a real problem. Had to switch locations because it was getting really crowded where I was, and there I was talking about money and finances, and the people sitting at the table next to me were kind of looking at me kind of weird. And it was getting really, really windy out there as well. Beautiful day, beautiful sunny day. Still a little chilly here in South Carolina. I digress. So I was rambling and trying to take you on a little bit of a journey, decade by decade, on how I've gotten to the situation that I'm in now. In my mid 50s was when I had to leave my corporate job. Even though the income was coming in at a healthy rate, I was saving at a healthy rate, and I wasn't saving enough to catch up for the years that I didn't save, though. I was saving at a normal, healthy, current rate, and not making up for past years when I didn't have much or any to save. But I was making progress with that. But I couldn't continue in that lifestyle. I could not continue the corporate grind. And I'm still recovering from what that career did to me, emotionally and as a person, and how it's impacted me in other ways. But for the purposes of this video, where I'm talking about the financial path, I was at a critical point right there. I was so beyond miserable in the role that I was in. I couldn't think of a different role at a different company. Like, I tried actually interviewing for a couple other positions, but not only was I not my best self, I was my worst self. You know, I was at my lowest. I was horrible. I was horribly depressed and anxious and burnt out and stuck, all the things. So I was not in a place to find a new job. And all the stuff that was killing me about my current job, I just felt like it was going to be there for any other job. So financially speaking, my best bet would have been to either stick it out and to hell with my health. Maybe I'd survive it, but and be miserable. Okay. Or try to do it somewhere else for another company in another way. Okay. And I don't know how to explain the fact that something inside of me, because during that journey where I was really getting in touch with who I am and what I believe and spiritually and everything, I was getting reassurances and messages of, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You cutting ties at this current place is okay. Exploring this new path, these new ideas, it's all going to work out. This is the right direction for you. Like, I've really have had strong faith that it's the right direction for me, and that what I put into place these next several years is what's going to ensure that I am cared for and comfortable in my later years and towards the end of my life. And I just keep feeling those reassurances. Not enough reassurance that it doesn't creep in an anxious kind of way every once in a while. It does. I mean, there's definitely times where I get stressed about it, where I get worried about it. There's more times when I feel shame about it. I feel embarrassed about it because I consider myself a smart person. I consider myself an accomplished person. I consider myself somebody who's achieved a lot, who's earned a lot of money through her career. And it's a little bit embarrassing that I'm not all like set up and, ready to go and, ready to support myself. And I don't know. I'm working on just getting rid of that embarrassment, getting rid of that shame, and just focusing in on how do I want to live my life right now? How do I want to live it? And how do I want to live it to start preparing and easing into that retirement phase, if and when it ever gets here. I mean, the other thing is there's a lot of external stuff happening as well. I mean, companies stopped doing 401k matches and stuff, so that became less of a thing. Who knows what's going to happen for us for our Social Security. I had thought that like most of my adult life, I thought that was a guaranteed thing, but obviously recent many years, I have not been feeling that that's the case. So, who knows how it's all going to turn out, but I feel like it's about what am I going to do now? I could have lots of regret. I could have a lot of what if I did this? What if I did that? That's not going to help me right now. I could go back into and get a job, although, each year that I get older, the prospect of that gets more and more difficult. And the level of earning that it would take for me to want to go back to corporate would take me longer to find an opportunity like that. But there's nothing about that appeals to me. And it's a bigger sacrifice than I'm willing to make. So is it my own damn fault? It absolutely is. I don't know if it's your own damn fault. A lot of you in my comments are well prepared, are really, really close to retirement, and you have your money all set up and you're all good. And I'm happy. I'm happy for you for that. And there's also several of you similar to me that are behind. And there's several of you who have a lot more, significantly more obligations on your plate that are putting a bit of a financial drain on you as well. So I see that we have a lot of different circumstances out there. So it doesn't really matter whether it's our fault or not. What matters is what are we doing now? And how do we make it right for ourselves now? That's the big question. You thought you'd be coming to this video for answers. I'm not. I don't have answers. I know that the answers for me have been I want to set up a life where I can continue to earn income and generate revenue no matter how old I get and no matter what my physical shape is, as long as I'm, mentally there, that I'm going to be able to continue to earn money in various ways. And that's my goal for retirement. Maybe at some point I will have enough where I don't have to work anymore. I don't know, but I don't necessarily foresee that happening. I believe that I will continue to work and live and find joy and be with people I love and have adventures and hardships interspersed throughout that. And I'm just going to enjoy it while I'm here. My name is Amy Palmer. I am your GenX Big Sister. And if you're my little sister or my millennial little sister, start investing now. If you didn't start years ago, start now. Okay? GenX Big Sister signing out.